winding up by the tribunal or compulsory winding up. Compulsory winding up. When the company is wound up by an order of the tribunal, it is referred to as compulsory winding up of a company or winding up by tribunal. Under section 272, the tribunal passes an order for winding up an application by any of the enlisted person. Grounds for compulsory winding up. Company's inability to pay debts. Section 271, subsection 2. When the company is not in a position to pay debts, the company is considered to fail to pay its debts in the following cases. Failure to make payment on demand. If the company is indebted to a creditor for an amount exceeding 1 lakh rupees, then the creditor makes a demand for the payment of the amount. If the company is unable to pay its debts within 21 days after the receipt of such demand, then in such a case the company shall be considered as defaulter. Unsatisfied decreed debt. A company is also considered to be a default to pay debts if execution or other process issued by the order of the tribunal in favor of the company creditor are returned partly or completely unsatisfied. Proving inability to pay debts or commercial insolvency. If the company proves that it is unable to pay debts, then it is considered as unable to pay or default or insolvent. The tribunal may check the contingent and prospective liabilities of the company as to determine whether the company is really unable to pay its debts. If the company fails to prove that its assets are enough to meet its liabilities within a specified time, the company shall be deemed as commercially insolvent company. Passing of resolution by the company. Section 271b. When the company has passed a resolution for its winding up by the tribunal, however, the tribunal not only considers the interest of company but also the interest of public prior to making an order. Inappropriate acts of the company. When the company has performed the activities that are against the interest of integrity and sovereignty of India, public order, security of state, decency or morality. Sickness of the company. Under section 424G, if the tribunal makes an order, chapter 19 of the Act for the winding up of the company because it is found that the company is sick. Application by the registrar or any authorized persons. If the registrar or authorized person makes an application, the tribunal may make an order for winding up of a company. This sort of order is passed by tribunal in any of the following cases. If the company carries out its affairs in fraudulent manner, if the company was set up with an unlawful and fraudulent purpose, if the people involved in the formation or management of company affairs are found to be guilty of misconduct or fraud. Default made in the financial statements or annual returns. If the company has made a default in its financial statement or annual returns while filing with the registrar for immediately preceding 5 consecutive financial years. Just and equitable reason for winding up. According to section 271G, if the tribunal considers that it is appropriate and first to wind up the company, then it may make an order for the winding up of the company. While passing such an order, tribunal generally considers the interest of the company, its creditors, employees, shareholders, and the society. When a petition is filed for winding up on the grounds of just and equitable reason, the tribunal may not make an order in the following situations. If the tribunal thinks that other remedy can be used to the petitioners, if the tribunal thinks that the petitioners are unnecessary seeking for winding up of the company instead of taking up other remedy, in the past the tribunal has made an order for winding up of the company based on the first and equitable grounds. Deadlock in management. The tribunal may order for a winding up if it finds that there is a total deadlock in the management and there exists no practical remedy. Loss of substratum. The tribunal considers it to be just and equitable to wind up the company when the substratum of a company has lost. Losses. The company should be wound up if there is an impossibility to run the business except at a loss. Oppression of minority. It is just and equitable that company should be wound up if the company directors make the wrong use of their powers and harm the interest of minority shareholders. Fraudulent and illegal purpose. If a company is established with a fraudulent purpose, then it is just and equitable to wind up the company. Public interest. If the public demands for the winding up of the company, the tribunal shall order for the winding up. Failure to pay dividend. The tribunal shall also order for winding up if the company fails to meet the expectations of members to receive dividend. Bubble company. Company is considered as a bubble company if it has no business assets or proper foundation for business. Generally, this sort of company is formed to rob the public money. In this case, it is just and equitable to wind up the company. Thank you. Consequences of winding up. The consequences of winding up of a company are as follows. Consequences with respect to shareholders or members. The liability of shareholder in a limited company by shares is responsible to pay the complete amount up to the face value of the shares which are with him. The liability of shareholder continues even after the liquidation of company, but in that case he is then being explained as a contributory. The members of a company limited by guarantee are held responsible to make contributions up to the amount which is guaranteed by them. Consequences of creditors. Where the company is solvent, where the company is insolvent. When company is being wound up, all the payable debts on a contingency and all claims against the company, either present or future, certain or contingent, ascertained or sounding merely in damages, must be allowed to prove against the company. An estimation of value of such debts or claims are made. If in case of a solvent company being wound up, all claims of creditors which are being proved are satisfied completely. Where the company is insolvent, if the company is insolvent and is wound up, it has the same rules as in case of insolvency with respect to debts payable, the valuing process of annuities, future and contingent liabilities, and the respective rights of protected and unprotected creditors. Consequences with respect to servants and officers. A winding up order is considered to be a notice of discharge to the officers and employees of the company. Only exceptional in case the business of the company is being continued. Such a discharge would relieve them from all obligations under their contract of service. A voluntary winding up must function as a notice of discharge to the company's servants. Consequences as to proceedings against the company. In case of making a winding up order or the official liquidator is being appointed as provisional liquidator, no suit or legal proceedings against the company must be started except by leave of the court. In the same way, a pending suit against the company at the time of winding up order must not be continued except by leave of the court. The court may restrict the proceedings against the company in voluntary winding up depending upon its suitability. Consequences as to the cost. If assets are not adequate to pay for the liabilities, then the court may pass an order to make the payment of the cost, charges and expenses of the winding up of assets of the company. All costs, charges and expenses and even remuneration of the liquidator are paid out of the assets of the company in voluntary winding up. Consequences as to documents. If a company is being wound up, whether by tribunal or voluntarily, all documents of the company in nature of an invoice, order for goods, or business letter issued in the name of the company should contain a prima facie evidence of the truth of all matters of documents which are recorded. When the winding up of company is by tribunal, then creditors or contributors of the company inspects the books and the papers of the company with accordance to the rules made by the central government. When in case of voluntary winding up, the company got disposed as a manner specified by a special resolution of the company. Removal of name of the company from Registrar of Companies. According to Section 248 of Companies Act 2013, following are the provisions with respect to the removal of names of companies from the Registrar of Companies. The registrar may remove the name of a company from the register of companies for any of the following reasons. If the company has failed to commence its business within 1 year from the date of its incorporation, if the company failed to endure its business for a period of 2 preceding financial years, if a company has not made any application for obtaining the status of a dormant company under Section 248, subsection 1, issue notice to company and directors. Under Section 248, subsection 1, if the registrar has a valid reason to remove the name of a company, then he sends a notice to the company and to all the directors of the company stating that the name of the company is getting removed from the register of companies. The board of directors and a company are called to send their representations along with the required documents within a period of 30 days from the date of notice. Voluntary application by company. If the company has any of the reasons which mentioned under point 1, reasons for removal of name, if the company eliminates all its liabilities, if a special resolution is passed, 75% members assent in terms of paid up share capital, if a company is regulated under special act. However, a charitable company cannot make a voluntary application in regard to removal of name of company from the register of companies. Public notice. The registrar is responsible to publish notice immediately after the receipt of such applications when issued in the official gazette for the information of the general public. Striking off the name of company. The registrar may strike off the name of the company from the register of companies at the time of expiry mentioned in the notice. After the name of the company got struck off the register of companies, the registrar shall publish the notice in the official gazette which provides the clearance about the dissolution of company. Realization of the assets and discharge of liabilities. The registrar has to verify the provisions made for the realization of the dues to the company and for the payment or discharge of its liabilities and obligations within a reasonable time. If the company fails to provide such proceedings, then the registrar can take necessary action against the managing director or other persons in the management of the company. No effect on liability of director-manager. The director or manager or other officer can continue with their powers of management even if every member of the company gets dissolved, and the liabilities of the dissolved person will not be affected to the director or manager. No effect on the power of tribunal. Under Section 248, the tribunal to wind up a company will not affect by the striking of the name of the company from the register of companies. Company liquidator, appointment, powers and duties. A company liquidator is a person who is appointed from panel of professionals decided by central government. Company liquidator is appointed by tribunal in case of winding up by tribunal and by company, and creditors in case of voluntary winding up. He is appointed to take over the control of company in the form of realization of assets, payment of debts, and distribution of surplus among members of the company. The company liquidator acts as representative of the company in winding up proceedings so. He is referred to as an officer of the company. Appointment of company liquidator, section 275. Appointment of official liquidator as company liquidator. At the time of passing an order of winding up, tribunal must appoint an official liquidator as company liquidator. Even provisional liquidator is appointed to carry out the proceedings of winding up of the company. Terms and conditions of appointment. The terms and conditions relating to appointment of provisional liquidator or company liquidator and remuneration payable is decided by the tribunal. It should be on the basis of performance of task, experience, qualification and size of the company. Declaration by the company liquidator. Liquidator must file a declaration within 7 days of being appointed as provisional liquidator or company liquidator in prescribed form. Report by company liquidator. Following are the provisions relating to report of company liquidator. Within 60 days of winding up order, the company liquidator must submit its report to the tribunal. The contents of report are as follows: complete details regarding assets of the company along with capital amount issued, subscribed and paid up. Details of existing and contingent liabilities of the company and any debts due to the company. Guarantees extended by company and list of contributors and call due by them. Details regarding holding and subsidiary companies and details of trademarks and intellectual properties. Information relating to subsisting contracts and legal cases filed by or against the company. Any other information which tribunal find as essential must be included. The company liquidator must prepare the report in the way in which company was formed. Report must also give opinion of liquidator relating to any fraud committed since formation and even matters which he likes to bring to the notice of the tribunal. A report on viability of the business must be prepared or on the procedure to enhance the value of assets of the company. Company liquidator is eligible to make any further report or reports. The report made by company liquidator can be inspected at any time by any creditor or a contributory of the company and are also eligible to take copies and extract information by paying prescribed fees. The tribunal has power to issue order on report of company liquidator in the matters explained below. Tribunal decides the time limit for winding up, the complete proceedings and dissolving of company. Tribunal orders to sell off the company as going concern after verifying the reports that are submitted by company liquidator. If tribunal gets a report stating that fraud is committed against company, the tribunal may direct a liquidator to file a criminal case against persons involved in fraud. Tribunal order to enhance the value of assets of the company and take necessary steps to protect them. Tribunal may give any other order or directions which it thinks to be necessary for the company. Powers of a company liquidator. Powers exercised with the direction of the tribunal. Powers exercised with the direction of the creditors or contributories. According to section 290, subsection 1, the powers of company liquidator with the direction of the tribunal are as follows: to run the business which is essential for the effective winding up of the company, to perform all the acts or deeds and to execute in the name or on behalf of the company, to sell the complete undertaking of the company as a running business, to establish or defend any criminal or civil suit or legal proceeding in the name and on the behalf of the company. As per section 290, the company liquidator can apply to the court for the orders which are essential for the company wind up, to settle the claims of employees and creditors, and to distribute the proceeds based on the priorities established by law, to make the inspection of records and returns of the company on the files of the registrar or any other authority, to take out, accept, make and endorse the negotiable instruments that includes bills of exchange, check, promissory note in the name and on the behalf of the company, To protect the company assets and fulfill the obligations and responsibilities, the company liquidator can obtain the professional assistance from any person. The company liquidator has the powers to take action to execute and verify any document, petition, deed, application, bond or instrument, affidavit, etc. for the winding up of the company, distribution of assets, and to fulfill the duties and obligations. Powers exercised with the direction of contributories or creditors. The company liquidator shall carry out all the directions given by the resolution of the creditors or contributors at any general meeting. He can exercise his powers in the asset administration of the company and distribution among its creditors. The company liquidator may call for the meetings of the contributories or creditors. Meetings can be conducted upon making requests in writing by not less than 1/10 in value of the contributories or creditors. If anyone is not satisfied or have any complaint regarding the company liquidator decision, can apply to the court. Consequently, the court shall confirm, reverse or modify the decision complained and shall make further orders based on the circumstances. Duties of a company liquidator. According to section 275, the company liquidator can start and carry out the proceedings for the winding up of company as per the provisions of the Companies Act and the directions provided by the court. As per the section 275 subsection 6, the company liquidator can file a declaration within 7 days from the appointment date in the prescribed form. The company liquidator shall submit a report to the tribunal within 60 days from the order submit. The report includes particulars of the liabilities and assets of the company, subscribed paid up capital, names of the contributors, etc. According to Section 281 subsection 2, the company liquidator will file a report to the court in case of any fraud committed by anyone in the company formation or by any officer of the company since its formation. According to Section 281 subsection 3, the company liquidator will report to the court in case of the viability of the business of the company or when actions are to be taken for maximizing the value of the company assets. After passing the winding up order, the company liquidator can submit an application to the tribunal within 3 weeks from the order submit. The purpose of submitting this application is to establish a winding up committee. This committee helps and monitors the proceedings of liquidation by the company liquidator. As per section 277 subsection 6, the company liquidator can conduct the meetings of the winding up committee. A report is also submitted to the tribunal on the monthly basis till the final report for company dissolution is submitted to the court. According to section 277 subsection 8, final report of winding up committee is prepared and submitted to the court by the company liquidator. The purpose here is to receive dissolution order for the company. According to section 283, the company liquidator takes into custody all the properties, effects and actionable claims upon the order of tribunal. For protecting the properties of the company liquidator shall take necessary steps. A meeting of creditors and contributories is conducted by company liquidator within 30 days from the date of order of winding up. The periodical report shall be submitted by company liquidator at the end of each quarter. This is to show the progress of the winding up of the company in a specified form. According to section 293, the company liquidator ensures maintenance of proper books of accounts in a manner specified by the law. He shall also maintain account of receipts and payments made by him. If the account is related to the government company, the company liquidator forwards a copy to the central government, state government, and to the central and state government if both are the members of the government company. According to section 294, subsection 6, the company liquidator gets the audited accounts printed. He then sends the printed copy of the accounts to all creditors and contributories. According to section 290, subsection 1 and 3, the company liquidator takes all actions required for proper exercise of powers granted to him and shall also carry out other duties specified by tribunal. Thank you. Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code 2016. It is a bankruptcy law which intends to combine the existing framework into a single law for both insolvency and bankruptcy. It was introduced in Lok Sabha in December 2015 and was passed by the Parliament on 11th May 2016. It was notified in the Official Gazette after receiving presidential assent on 28th May 2016. But its implementation was put on hold until the next notification implemented it from 1st December 2016. The provisions relating to the code are implemented in a phased manner. The bankruptcy code offers one-stop solution to resolve insolvencies by offering economically viable arrangement. The insolvency framework is cost-effective and it minimizes the time required to attain liquidation. Vision of IBC. IBC envisions to encourage innovation and entrepreneurship in India by using stressed assets for its best utilization. It contributes to GDP growth by an impressive balance and increases equity among potential parties. It encourages the participation of all stakeholders who are guided by experts of the field. Objectives of IBC: to amend and consolidate the laws related to insolvency resolution and reorganization of corporate individuals, partnership firms, and others, to encourage entrepreneurship in the nation, to make credit available and balance the interests, to encourage participation in the revival process of all the stakeholders, which includes alternating the order of priority in which the government dues are paid, to establish an Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board of India. The scheme and framework of the code. The code consists of 5 parts including chapters in each one of them. Parts of the code are listed below. Part 1, Section 1 to 3 deals with definitions and preliminary. Part 2, Section 4 to 77, Chapter 1 to 7. It deals with corporate individuals. Part 3, Section 78 to 187, Chapter 1 to 7. It deals with partnership firm and individual firm. Part 4, Section 188 to 223, Chapter 1 to 7. It deals with investigation and inspection, accounts and finance, and registration of IPA, etc. Part 5, Section 224 to 255 deals with miscellaneous. The provisions of this code are applicable to the following: a company which is incorporated under the Companies Act 2013, a limited liability partnership which is incorporated under the Limited Liability Partnership Act 2008, individuals and partnership firms related to their voluntary liquidation, insolvency, bankruptcy, and other such issues. A company which is governed by a special act in force for some time, but not to any extent where the above provisions stand inapplicable with the special act's provision. Any other body which is incorporated under a law enforceable for time being as specified by the central government. Salient features of the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, IBC. The IBC authorizes the creditors with the control instead of debtors and enables them to gauge the debtors' viability as a business decision and agree upon a plan for a swift liquidation. It entitles management rights to experts such as resolution professionals. The eligibility to apply for insolvency is based on default of debt or interest payment. Currently, the default must be at least 1 lakh, which can be extended to 1 crore by the government. It intends to consolidate all the existing insolvency laws and to amend various legislations, including the Companies Act, to achieve a greater clarity of law and to enable the applications of its provisions to those stakeholders who are affected by insolvency and bankruptcy. To allow time to stakeholders for conducting discussions, obtaining a resolution plan, introduced a moratorium period. It has proposed 2 independent stages for the creditor-driven insolvency resolution. Insolvency resolution process. In this process, the creditors determine whether the debtor's business is viable to continue and consider various options for its revival and rescue. Liquidation. Liquidation is performed if the first stage fails or if the creditors make a decision of winding up and distributing the defaulting debtor's asset. It has developed a new institution framework which contains a regulator, adjudicatory mechanisms, information utilities, and insolvency professionals to enable a time-bound and formal insolvency resolution process and liquidation. Qualified insolvency professionals have been introduced to observe the whole process. It has aided the setting up of Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board, an independent administrative and governance body of insolvency and bankruptcy law. It has Also introduced information utilities as a depository of financial information to minimize the asymmetry between various stakeholders of the insolvency process. It also provides investigation powers for investigating antecedent transactions and also in case of assets illegal diversion. It intends to resolve each insolvency in a strict timeline of 180 days after the moratorium period consisting of 180 days, which is extendable up to 270 is over. IPs take over the company's assets. It helps in protecting the value of the firm as a going concern. If the resolution plan is not agreed within 180 days of the resolution process, then compulsory liquidation of the corporate debtors is provided. In case of liquidation, it has provided waterfall mechanism or order of priority for the distribution of assets. It has prioritized the rendering of unsecured creditor dues and making the government dues subordinate to them. Thank you.